yeah. This is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they never had one day. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, March 26th of 2025, bringing you episode number 158. Obviously, I am here. I am flying solo. This is David's, I guess this is his off week. Not really, because he works. So it's not like he's actually off, but it's his off week from the show. So maybe David will be jumping in at some point in the chat. But we are here. I have been lazy as shit. I have not done a show in between. I usually do like one or two in between our last episode. So I apologize to anyone that was looking out for my normal kind of midweek or semi-double week, just talking about topics. But I got lazy. That's all it was. Got lazy, started doing things. Family won't happen again. Maybe. I don't know. But before we get into the fun stuff, we appreciate everyone that is watching, wherever you're watching from, whether it is X, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Facebook. Hello to all of you. Please do your due diligence. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Rate 5 stars on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music if you're listening to this via podcast form. And as always, spread this word of mouth. That is the best way and the biggest way to make sure that this keeps on growing. Let everyone know that you like the show, and we are here every single week. Now, also, we are an hour later, and there is good reason for that because my guest had to be a father, and people have listened to the show know that I take that responsibility very seriously. So, typically it's like 9 o'clock, and we were talking, and he's like, "Hey, can we push this back? My kid has soccer." And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely. Like, I don't care." So let's bring him in. My guest this week, he is Kevin Dalton. He is a former candidate for District 1 Board of Supervisors over in Cali, and now he's just an outraged citizen, pissed as hell, using his platform on X to make some change. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, man, great to have me on. Thanks for putting up a soccer practice and understanding the dad thing. It's important.
Yeah, we talked beforehand. I have mine in soccer, so it's like, and we're starting up in a few weeks. So it's, I'm going to be extra tired and, just coaching and things like that. But, pumped to have you on. I'm excited because, I came across your X page and you post about some interesting stuff, especially pertaining to Cali. So, and I'm an
Yeah.
East Coast guy. So it's like, I'm also jealous looking at you because it is bright and beautiful behind you. And over here, if you looked out my window, it's dark and I'm stuck in an office here.
Well, fun fact, I care a lot about California. I spent 45 years there. I have 40 years of friends, family, and community there. But one of the reasons why it looks so amazing and beautiful out here is because I moved the hell out of California 2 years, oh boy, coming on 3 years ago now. So you were are looking at the beautiful Eagle, Idaho, and
That's
it's
awesome.
beautiful and majestic, and we took a chance. We had an opportunity to get out, and we didn't know exactly where we were going to go, and we googled best places to live, and Boise, Idaho came up number one, and we said, what the hell, let's take a chance. And man, never look back. My son rode his bike up to the park where he had soccer practice, and then we walked back, and now we're doing this. It's beautiful out here, and it's sadly something we couldn't have done in California. We lived down the street from a
Oh
park,
man. You're already
that we
selling.
never went to because it was full of homeless people and it was full of junkies. And it's so weird because saying that out loud right now sounds insane.
But it
Like
was normal when you were there, right? Like, it was just normal.
yes,
What part of Cali were you living in?
I was right then I was in Pomona, so like
Okay.
20 30 miles east of Los Angeles, and we had lots of parks around us, all of which were unusable. And it's amazing how, like, I guess resensitized I've become,
Yeah.
because I mean, before we were in Pomona, my wife and I, we were in West Hollywood for 6 years, living in the gut of, you know, homelessville, and you know, as bad as it got in town. So it's wild now being here for almost 3 years and thinking about not being able to go to a park. It's crazy. So I say that to everyone. If you have thoughts of leaving, there's hope that the craziness that you're inundated with just sort of melts away at some point. That's kind of nice to think about.
You know, it's crazy too because I'm over here in New York and I have seriously, but jokingly seriously, been talking to my wife about getting the hell out of here. Now, I was born and raised in Jersey, went to school over here where I am, and she's lived in New York her whole life. So it's like we're Northeast people. But I have said, I'm like, I want to get the hell out of here. Like, and one of the places I've tried to convince her to go is Idaho. It's Idaho's one, Nebraska's another. And like her big things is like the school systems. I'm going to go to battle with my school system, but that's another story. But it's, in terms of like the rankings you look at, there's places like I was like, I want to go to Mississippi or Louisiana. She's like, hell no, not going down there. I'm like, okay. And then we started thinking, I'm like, okay, what about Nebraska? What about Idaho? She's like, I like potatoes and I like corn, so we can maybe talk. So
Yeah.
there, but it's crazy that you said Idaho because that's some place I've been kicking around. I'm like, it seems gorgeous over there. Like it's
It
so untapped too, and that's
it
awesome.
boy, it's amazing. There's 4 seasons. It's the first time I've ever
See, we
experienced.
have 4 seasons over here too in
Okay,
Northeast. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've never experienced that before. I mean, Southern California, it was summer, and then I don't know, spring for 2 weeks when it rained. That was
And you
about it.
guys panicked when you got like thunderstorms a
Oh,
lot of times, right? Because I had a friend when I was over at Marist where I went. She was from San Francisco, and I remember freshman year, it was like a thunderstorm, and we're just like, oh, we're about to go to the mall. She's like, wait, what? It's like it's just raining. She's like, but it's
yeah,
bad. It's like it's rain, and like her
it's
first time like
embarrassing.
experiencing sno, like it was a
Yeah.
flurry, and she's like, we gotta go outside, and it's like, but we take for granted, and you're probably doing it now in those 3 years. It's like, I gotta go shovel, okay, like or
Yeah.
like you get used to it, and but it's like
Oh,
you kind of you get. I don't know. Like, I wish I was in California at times so I didn't have to deal with half this shit. Like, I don't know.
the grass is always greener on the other
Yeah,
side. You know, you look over there and it's like, oh, the weather's great, but there's trappings that come with all of it.
of course.
Just to touch on the schools real quick. One thing that we had discussed, and it's basically anywhere, here, and the topic of, do we go, public school, private school, and are the school systems as good out here? Um, I think if you're an engaged parent, the school's going to be okay because you're putting in the effort. So I see parents that don't put in as much effort, and you can blame the school all you want, but if you're not putting in a modicum of effort into, what did your kid do today? Are we making sure they can count to 100? All of this stuff. If you're just dumping them off at 8 o'clock and you're like, whew, see you at 4, and and then not ever think about that time, that's the education you're going to get for your kid. I
There's a
think
lot of truth to that.
if you're a great parent, you can have the worst school on the planet, but they're still going to teach the basics. You're going to get your kid through into college, and they will be a doctor coming from the worst school ever because you are a parent.
Yeah.
And it takes more than that. If you're relying on the system, if you're like, oh man, the teachers don't have enough money, and that's why my kid doesn't read. No, Your kid doesn't read because your kid doesn't read. You didn't take enough effort or interest in that. So I know there's always, kind of like outlying cases,
Of course.
that that are exceptions. But for the most part, be there for your kid, be engaged and pay attention, and they're going to be fine no matter what school they get to.
And there's something to that too, right? Because I always say, like, I don't judge the way other people parent. It is what it is. But the best advice I give to anyone is try, right? Like, the best thing you could do, you're going to make a shit ton of mistakes. You're going to feel
Yeah,
guilty a ton of times when you have to do things, and you're going to handle things the wrong way. But as long as you're giving an effort, there's nobody that forgives you more than your kid. Maybe your dog. That's about it. Your kid and your dog forgive you for all your mistakes. But it's like,
yeah,
as long as you're giving an effort, you're going to screw up a lot, but they're going to end up, like you said, okay, because you cared, you gave a
yep.
shit. And it's like, one of the things that's always been important to us is, since both of my daughters were born, one's 7, the other one's 4, going to be 5, we have sat there right before bed and read to both of them. Whether, and that's just read to both of them. It's a simple, they each pick a story and they read. And then we go back into their room and reread them another story of their choice. And it's like just a simple thing of giving up that little bit of time, that hour maybe in total of your night of just reading. We've already seen what it's done. My 7-year-old reads chapter books right now, and she freaking loves reading. My 4-year-old, she's going to be able to read just fine. I don't know if she's going to be as studious. She might be like me, who's like, I like books, but there's a ball outside. Like, that might be her. But it's something as simple as reading them basic books that they can understand and going up with them. Like, I'm reading my 7-year-old Harry Potter. I haven't sat down and read Harry Potter in 20 years, when it first, like 25 years. And I'm loving it again, reading it with her. It's fun, but it's like these minimum things that can be done that the teacher shouldn't have to do, right? The teacher shouldn't have to teach those basics and those things where, like you said, being an engaged parent and maybe getting them to trace their letters even before they get into preschool, teaching them how to, letting them just go color and do whatever they want instead of putting them
Yeah.
in front of a screen. And all these things are super effective. And I agree. I want to get real quick. The Smoking Jen over here, my boy Big D, saying Idaho clean living. Yes. And then he also said everything changes when kids come into the picture. And that is, well, I mean, it's funny. So I'm a driving instructor by day. And I talk to my students, like we get into conversations. And one of the things that, sometimes, different people have different personalities. Some of them are, really deep thinkers and stuff. And one of the things we talked about is things do change when kids come into the picture for some people nowadays, right? Because I feel like
Mm.
narcissism is so massive that people look at their kids as burdens now. And I feel
Oh
like,
yeah.
when you were in Cali, we all get this like terrible view of Cali and SoCal. Did you experience a lot of that with some of the parents you were interacting with at times?
So here's the funny thing. My son was like full on COVID baby. Like
Hmm.
he was born 4 months later, the world came to an end. So we didn't have like all of those like parent groups, and we
Yeah.
weren't doing all that stuff for the first year. But oh man, I 100% see exactly what you mean, and I see it now with his contemporaries, where it's the automatic that there's the nanny, there's the babysitter coming over because the parents are out for the weekend, or they're leaving, which my wife and I were like, this seems foreign, to just leave. I mean, I think maybe 1, 2 nights, and it's not because, we're like, "We were afraid to be away from the boy." It's not that at all. We're family, and this is what we do together.
And you
We
do
we
kind
joke
of feel
all
guilty a little bit, right? You're gone,
and
and then there comes a time where you're sitting there and you're having a great time, and you're just like, I kind of miss the kids. Like,
it's
it's a
it
little too
it's
quiet.
it's not explainable. So,
Yeah.
I did everything older in life. Like, I didn't have a dog until I was like in my early 30s. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
understand that connection to an animal. And then when Sierra, our dog, came into my life, I was like, oh, this thing kind of like unlocked in me. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I love this thing, and this thing loves me, and I get this thing. And, I'm like, oh, no, I get it. I understand what you guys have with kids. I have Sierra, it's my dog. I love my dog. My dog loves me. And then Lincoln came around, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this thing unlocked and changed. And I was older in life. I was in my early 40s, or just, 40. And somehow all of the first 40 years of my life just became kind of irrelevant.
Yep, they don't matter.
They don't.
Nope.
I don't like lament the times. I had great times. Oh my God. I had so much great times. I'm wildly fortunate that cell phones and video cameras were not that prevalent
Oh
when I was having
my
such great
God.
times. Um,
Agreed.
but now I got this kid that I just went up to soccer practice with, and we're reading books and just laid him down to bed, and it just made the first 93% of my life just kind of not matter. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And your
And I couldn't
goals
explain it.
change. Your
Yes.
goals change. And the thing is, again, the same student, I was talking with her, and I was kind of like, the people that, and I forget who I heard this from. It may have been when I was listening to Glenn Beck, or I don't even know. It was maybe a book I was reading, but they talked about the difference between chasing happiness, between chasing satisfaction, right? And it's like, if
Mm,
you are satisfied in life, then your chances of getting too high or too low are very slim, because you always have a baseline. If
yeah.
you're chasing happiness, that's fleeting. It goes away. And that's when you fall into your depression and happy. And it's such a vicious cycle. And when you have a child and then your life changes and you start to dedicate your life to that kid, and you have a loving wife and you have a great family, and you have a baseline, you are satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't be ambitious. Doesn't mean that you can't have goals and try to improve yourself, but it's not like your happiness is all you're chasing now. It's not what your worth is. It's not what you're depending on. It's no, no, no. I still want to accomplish things. I have great goals, but I have this rock behind me that regardless of what happens, I'm good. And
Yeah.
I think people don't look at things enough that way once that family starts. And I don't know how to get back there.
Well, it goes back to exactly what you said. It's chasing happiness, and I think it's the chasing part that's the problem. Because if you're always looking for this thing, whatever it is that you're looking to attain,
Mhm.
you're not appreciating here.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's because I've just gotten older. I started practicing yoga, but it here right now, the present became so much more important. And then I see people who are constantly chasing, and I'm like, oh man, i don't I don't know how to convey to you what the problem is. Like, I can see it. I can see it's this constant, always looking for. I'm chasing, and it's unattainable, and you'll never appreciate what's right here. And you can see the people who are just not happy with here.
I always tend to think, and I go back to this, and I'm not like an uber religious person. Like, I have a relationship with Christ, but I don't go to church every Sunday, right? Like, that's where I am. I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, but I feel like the lack of religion in any sort of sense, we see a lot of it, right? Like, the
Yeah,
narcissism always gets more rampant when religion leaves. And I'm not saying that there's like atheists and agnostics that aren't great, right? There's
yeah,
amazing atheists, amazing agnostics, but you see the ones that are still grounded, they're the ones that say they understand the purpose of religion. While they're not necessarily practicing or in agreement, they do understand the purpose. And, I secretly think those, like, you have your, James Lindsay, someone who I like to listen to on New Discourses. He doesn't claim to be a Christian, but he can quote you Bible scriptures because he's read it a million times. And it's like, it's chipping away. And whether you want to admit it or not, you're leading your life based off of verses that you're reading there, right?
yeah,
Because you
without question.
understand that their utility. And I feel like that is possibly a big cause, right? Where we've become so secular and it's all about the me. And I'm not saying what religion's right, but just go find one, right? Because religion brings hope, it brings purpose, it brings moral compass, it brings all that.
Yeah, it's a connection.
Yeah.
I'm a Jewish kid that went to Christian school for 8 years, and like I said, I practice yoga. I teach yoga, and the
Nice.
reason why I bring that up is because one of the things that instantly attracted me to practicing was this connection I felt with everyone else in the room. And it was because we're in there breathing on the same page. We're thinking about the same thing. There's an intention. So we all have this idea, and I can feel it. It is palpable to
That's
me.
a
And
real thing.
I'm like, oh, this is what people feel in church. This is
Mhm.
this connection. This is thinking about the same exact thing. This is breathing. This is singing. This is whatever it is to you. We're moving exactly in the same motion. It is a connection, and it is important. Find, like you said,
Powerful.
find it. Find it. It's powerful. Whatever it is for you. And I was never a crazy hippie guy, but when you talk about spirituality and this connection, energy, whatever you want to call it, unquestionably is a thing.
Absolutely. And you get it from sporting events, right? Like when you're watching a game and your team gets a big thing and you turn to the random stranger and you high five each other because you're in that moment, you're
Yes.
connected, or you go to a concert and it's your favorite artist and you're both singing songs, and random stranger, you make eye contact, you're just belting out. It's like you in that moment, that's one of the most like human moments you can have, right? It's
Church.
it, it's church in a lot of ways, it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
And so it's like there is those moments, and I think we need to find them. And I think also you moving to Idaho helped you a ton because you're breathing in fresh air, and I think
Yeah.
that also makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, not being inundated in traffic and
Yeah.
not, we joke about how often we hear a horn honk, or if you're sitting at a light and it turns green and the car doesn't go in front of you, and everyone just kind of sits back and we're like, they'll get there. We'll get there.
Were you guys as
And
fast paced in California as we are in the Northeast? Because my joke
yeah,
as a driving instructor, or like anyone that asks me, like, oh, why is everyone so hasty? I'm like, because everyone's late. You live in the Northeast. Like everyone
yeah.
is late. That is it. That's why everyone drives like a jerk.
So here's what I noticed was the big difference between East Coast and West Coast drivers is everyone on the East Coast is late. Everyone is a hurry, go, go, which isn't necessarily bad because everybody's in a hurry. Um, on the West Coast, 50% of the people are late and they are in a hurry. The problem is the other 50% have nowhere to be.
I hate
They're just
Mosiers. I hate Mosiers. The
they're
Mosiers drive me crazy.
yeah, they're just road anchors, and
Oh,
they have, and so you get this terrible collision of fast paced and no pace, and so that's the frightening difference. On the East Coast, at least you're going to get there.
yeah.
It's going to be fast and scary, but everyone's on the same page, so that's good.
So I'm not a big fan of electric cars, but I will buy a Tesla from Elon if he puts bumpers on them, like legitimate rubber bumpers, so I can push people out of my way. That's what I
That's
want.
good.
I want to make legal rubber bumpers so we can push each other lightly out of the way. Um, so I want to get into some of the nitty gritty because you were a candidate over in California for it was District 1 Board of Supervisors. Now, what exactly is that?
Yeah, right. So before COVID, I had no idea what a board of supervisor was.
Mhm.
So essentially, they're like the mayor of a county.
Okay, cool.
And in Los Angeles, a county of 10 million people, you've got five board of supervisors.
We have
You're
county executives
essentially,
in New
yeah.
York
So
here.
it's a
Yeah,
same idea.
yeah.
Crazy amount of power.
Hmm.
And that's what we learned when COVID hit and they started shutting down businesses
Yeah.
and beaches and parks and filling skate parks with sand. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, hold on a second. Something needs to be done here. And someone reached out to me and said, hey, no one's running against Hilda Solis in district number 1. Do you want to do it? Sure, why not? Something needs to be done.
And then the
And
whirlwind starts, right? You had no idea what you were getting yourself into.
none whatsoever. So fortunately, someone reached out to me and he became my campaign manager. And he was the guy who crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's, because if you were running for office, man, that is the thing that's going to slip you up, is all of the finance reports and all of these
Oh, yeah.
little intricate things that will just sabotage a campaign before you can even get started.
And the
So
established people know all about it and they have the best people and they don't worry about it. But if you're just starting up and no
yeah,
one believes in you, no one gives a shit, no one's there to help you, and they're hoping you slip up because you're a burden at that point.
without question. So long story short, I raised $5,000, 2,500 of which went to the filing fee. That didn't get me
Oh my God.
on the ballot. So I gave them $2,500 and they gave me a stack of papers and said, go fill this out, get a bunch of signatures. And if this isn't
Petitions. Yep.
done exactly right, we're done. Have a nice day. So turned it all in. Fortunately, got all the stuff done because I had my campaign manager. And at that point, spent the other $2,500 on miscellaneous stuff, but went and just beat feet and met people and had cookouts on people's driveways, and they invited people from their neighborhood over to meet me, and we had this amazing grassroots effort. And Hilda Solis raised around $900,000 to
Jesus.
my 5,000, and 75% of the people voted for her, which is kind of the way that goes.
Money's not
Um,
everything, but when it's a massive difference, it matters.
It is. It is everything when it comes down to it. Let me pause real quick. I know this is live. This is
No, it's
terrible,
okay.
but I can see this is wildly dark. I'm going to try to turn on a couple lights out here and buy us a few more minutes. Hold on just a sec for me.
Go for it. So Kevin's over there. He's turned on his light. He shouldn't be long, but I'm going through that. He talked about the petition process. I just finished up doing that. And I know when Kevin comes back, he could probably talk about just how sometimes it's not fun having to go get those signatures because you're going door to door. And initially you're going to your registered people. You're registered in your party. And the issue is half of them don't want to answer the door. So you're sitting there and you're knocking. And one thing that I found is if they have a Ring doorbell, if you ring it, they just look at you through the camera and they don't want to come to the door. So you're better
That's
off not
hilarious.
using the friggin' Ring doorbell and these are people registered in your party that don't even want to come to the door. And you're doing a much bigger task because you have to go county wide. So there are,
Yeah,
like you said, million, you're not getting to all of them. Like it's impossible to get to all of them. But
sure.
people don't answer doors. It's insane. And
No,
it feels daunting at times when you're sitting there 10 houses deep and you're just like, shit, I don't have a single signature to that yet.
and that's part of it, is you get so easily discouraged because you don't have this gigantic machine behind you
Yep.
that Hilda Solis, on top of having this machine, she was also a cabinet member in the Obama administration. She was the incumbent, which meant that every single place she went, there were easy ups that said Hilda Solis, district supervisor, which I'm like,
Yep.
who cares? Why are we spending tax dollars printing the supervisor's name on stuff? Like, everything was just one giant campaign for them, and nothing served the people. So I learned a lot. If I were going to do it again, I would make sure that I crossed my I's and dot my,
So
cross
I'm going to
my
ask, is
T's,
there a
dot my I's, all
possibility in
that stuff.
Idaho? Is there a possibility that you're going to think of running again now that you know more and it's probably a less hectic situation in Idaho, but do you plan on
Possibly.
doing anything?
I think right now I may run for something at my kid's school. PTO treasurer
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, why not?
Something low impact that I can make some real change. Not I'm not sure yet. I would always love to. Every single time I complain about something, my wife's like, "Here we go," and I'm like, "No, no, no, not
My
yet."
wife doesn't listen. Like she finally gave me the good graces to go run, And she's like, listen, you could do what you want, just don't talk to me about it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to hear, like, she's like, she doesn't, she's like the opposite of me, where I love politics. I pay attention to the federal stuff and I'll see
Yeah.
things. She's just like, that's why I married you. Take care of that. Get away from me. Don't talk to me
Oh,
about any of it. If it's really going to impact the family, let me know about it. Outside of that, I don't care.
yeah. My wife's exactly the same. She has her Instagram that, like it's all for sharing pictures with her family and watching funny videos. Other than that, like there's stuff that I come home and I ask her about, and I love it because she'll have no idea what I'm talking about at all. And I'm like, oh, that's right. There's such a difference between the internet and the real world.
Oh
And
my God.
you get so wrapped up in X and you're like, this is what's happening. And then I go talk to real people who have no idea, no care in the world. And I'm like, cool. All right.
And then you try to tell them
Good
about
way
it
to
and you
go.
realize just how esoteric you are, like how in the weeds you are. And you're trying to tell them
Yeah.
about this is important. And they're just like, I just want my kid to kick a soccer ball. Can you let me watch him play soccer?
No,
Like, I don't care about
enjoy,
Yemen. Like,
enjoy the sunset. Enjoy the sunset.
like, I don't care about Yemen. What's a
Yeah.
Houthi? Like,
Yep.
like that we're sitting there and it's a big deal to us in the
Yep.
politicos or people that enjoy it. But for
Yeah.
99% of the people, and that's one of the things that I know I'm going to enjoy about the local scene, because one of the things that I'm really and genuinely want to do is I don't want the federal stuff to get into my town. The federal shit doesn't belong here. Like, yes, some of it may have its
Yep.
place, right? But for the most part, like most of the Green New Deal stuff doesn't belong in my small town.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. Like a lot of the culture war stuff, we'll fight what needs to be fought, but it doesn't all need to be mitigated in our town.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of the fun things that I'm going to do. And one of the things that I've been trying to anyone that'll talk to me and say, hey, that's one of the things. And for the most part, I've talked to people on both sides and they're like, it's not a bad plan. Like we prefer to be town focused, not federal. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. Now, right now, there is another attempt to recall Gavin Newsom. Now, you have famously on your X been one of the biggest Gavin Newsom haters, and deservedly so. Gavin Newsom sucks, right? But I think you have a different view than most people would think about this current recall. I watched your video. I'm interested in it. I want to hear from you. Why should we not support the Gavin Newsom recall?
Yeah, so like you said, I have a pretty solid record of being not a fan of Gavin Newsom. You can go back and look at that. That's pretty simple. In the 2021 recall, I was right there on the forefront, getting signatures and pushing it out there and trying to get him recalled. What I didn't know at the time, and I just recently found out, was one of the reasons why Gavin Newsom was, depending on who you talk to, was able to raise somewhere between 50 million and $100 million during that recall was because in California, as soon as a recall is tripped, that politician can now raise unlimited amounts of money. So for governor, I think it's like $28,000, maybe it's like $48,000. There is a limit that you can donate to his campaign. As soon as that recall was tripped, George Soros, here's $1 million, Gavin Newsom. And there was, I'm trying to think of all the other names now. But I mean, you can go and look. Democratic super PACs,
Your
$5
Tom
million.
Steyers and stuff like that, your
All,
Bloombergs, your major
all,
players that are jumping in that, only they're the good billionaires though. Remember that. They're the good oligarchs.
they're on the good side
There's
of
good
history.
oligarchs, there's bad oligarchs.
Yes.
They're the good oligarchs, right?
Yes. So in 2021, Gavin Newsom raised all of this money, up to $100 million, beat the recall, had a ton of money left over. He was able to then take that money and then put it into his campaign for governor in 2022.
Which is crazy. So what can he convert it into, like a pack? Like, can it go to a pack that then goes towards him? Because it's
He
obviously he can't take that to himself, but it all shuffles through packs, right?
Exactly. He also, at that point in 2023, with some of the leftover money, $10 million, started his super PAC, Democracy for America, or something, something to that effect. But that
Yeah.
was when he was placing all those ads across televisions, across, in red states, talking about how they're taking women's, rights for abortion and all that,
And putting
that's,
out the feelers to see if people wanted him to jump in for Joe.
of
That's all
course.
that was. That was
Yes, of
feelers to
course it
see
was.
where he was going to be. And then Ron DeSantis kicked his face in, and that ended everything.
But again, this was all funded from his leftover money from the
So
2021
crazy.
election. So, from the recall. So, getting
Yeah.
back to why this recall is a bad idea, the same exact thing will happen. As soon as this recall is tripped, Gavin Newsom can once again raise unlimited amounts of money,
Mhm.
and he doesn't have to spend it all. And he will invariably use it when he wants to run for election in 2028. That's one reason why the recall is a bad idea. The second reason
So,
is
quick
just
question, real
timing.
quick about the
Yes,
first
yeah,
recall.
yeah.
If it's a good candidate, another good one, because
Hmm.
Larry Elder was a good candidate. He probably
Hmm.
should have won if there was more support for him, right? If there was a really good candidate that pops up, and you have Elon and a couple of really big players on the right that are like, you know what, screw it, let's get $80 million in this person's coffer.
Hmm.
Would that be something you support? That they could potentially topple Gavin at that point?
Well, here's the thing: is if he gets on the recall, like I
Mhm.
was saying, like we were talking with you just getting on the ballot, or for me to get on the ballot, it is a tremendous amount of work. For
Yep.
a recall, the work is it's 100 times that. So even if everything goes perfect, he doesn't get on the ballot until June of next year,
Oh wow.
which means he has 6 months left anyway in his term. So
Mhm.
no matter, so we're talking about recalling Gavin, not even putting up a new candidate at this point. So
Mhm.
it's timing wise,
Yeah, it's
it's
terrible.
it's a fool's errand. So at best, at best, say we go through, you get him on the ballot, you recall him in June. The only thing you do is get him out of office for 3 months early at best, and you've given him 50 million, 60, $70 million to run for
And
president
who's
in
the
a couple of
lieutenant
years.
governor that is going to take over? Because it's going to be a lieutenant governor. If you're not putting somebody there, it's kind of grass is always greener. At least we know Gavin Newsom's an evil lizard. Like, that he is that. And I take that from Shane Cashman from Tim Cass. He calls him a lizard person all the time.
Not now.
But yeah, he's in a skin suit. We know this. Like, that is a fact. But it's like we have no idea. Like, I know nothing about California's lieutenant governor. You may know more since you were from there, but I have no clue anything about that
Yeah,
individual.
not much at all. I mean,
Yeah.
she hasn't done a lot. I think, boy, she did something. I'm trying to remember what it was. She
She
was
did
screaming.
something.
Nothing. What the only thing notable was I think she was angry at Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift wasn't boycotting hotels when the service workers went on strike, but then the next night went to a Taylor Swift concert. I mean,
So
it
you
was,
got to let the people of California know that being in New York, I saw when the evil shithead that was Andrew Cuomo got ousted, and now we have Kathy Hochul. And Kathy Hochul was able to win re-election, and Kathy Hochul is worse than Cuomo. Yes, she
uh,
didn't kill thousands of older people in COVID like Cuomo did, and now Cuomo's probably going to become the mayor of the city, which drives me crazy. But which here's my thing too, and I don't know if you talk to anyone prominent in the Republican Party, but that should be our next battle. We won the Trump battle, right?
yeah,
I don't think people realize how important the mayor of New York City is. I put him as one of the 10 most powerful people in the country, right up there with like the mayor of LA and things like that. These major city mayors are incredibly powerful. And
yeah,
I think this is the next national battle that Republicans need to fight to keep Andrew Cuomo out of the New York mayor seat. To get the number one, find a good candidate in the city to run. Because I said it before, as much as I like Curtis Silva, I think he's awesome. I like his radio show. He wasn't going to win. He was never
yeah,
going to
yep,
win that race.
yeah,
I like people. The New York owned Republicans have a lot of great people over there. Like I like Gavin Mario Wax. I think he's been doing a fantastic job.
mm,
I want Gavin to run. I would think he would be an awesome mayor. I don't know if he wants to, but there's people that they need to put up. But this is the national battle now that the Republicans need to fight, and we need to put a shit ton of money behind beating Cuomo because God, how much of a fail would that be for us if we just allow him to march in there without a fight.
Well, it's wild. I mean, it's like, okay, New Yorkers, raise your hands. Who wants to run for mayor of New York? You know, a bunch of hands go up. It's like, okay, who's responsible for 14 or 15,000 deaths of senior citizens during COVID? Okay, one hand went down. Okay, Andrew Cuomo, you're out. Now we're going to talk to all these other people. It's nuts. Andrew Cuomo. I think about I obscure references just constantly run through my head. There was an old Family Guy short where it was they cut to a baseball game. This guy hits a ball and it goes right by a shortstop who's got no arms, and they're like, "Oh, Bucky LaRoom, this is another easy grounder." What an insult to all these single-armed shortstops, you know? But it's just like it makes me laugh because I'm like, all the people who think that they could run for New York that are instantly trounced by this guy that's got a body count of more than
Thousands.
10,000
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And he's a shoo-in. I see, like, I don't know how sometimes every now and again I'm scrolling through on X and I like see an old like WWF match from the 80s. I'm like, ooh, cool, I'll watch that for 30 seconds. And then all of a sudden my feed is just wrestling for the next 2 months. I'm like,
Which I'm
damn
okay
it.
with. I like wrestling.
It's not terrible. But the same thing happened with Andrew Cuomo. I stopped on
He's
one of his
so
videos,
annoying.
and then now I'm like, why are so many people supporting this guy? How does he have so much
Because there's a
support?
D next to his name, and
It's the
he's a known commodity.
machine.
He's
Yeah,
a known commodity with the Cuomo. His dad was governor for a long time, Mario Cuomo,
yeah,
and then he took it. And it's just, the people go with the devil, name recognition, which you found out, right, is
yeah, yeah,
gigantic.
yeah,
It's bigger than actually having policy. It's bigger than
yeah,
actually having anything. And people know a Cuomo, right? So that's the toughest part. I would love for Don Jr. to come down and run. Don Jr. is a New York City representative. If he wants any presidential aspirations, come become mayor for a few terms. I would love it if Don Jr. just came and beat Cuomo. That would
yeah.
be beat Cuomo, serve a term or two, and then kind of hand it over. But that to me would be fan freaking. Maybe we got to do that. Don Jr., get your ass down here, or up here if you're in Mar-a-Lago, wherever you are. But I know I know he's up over in northern New York all the time and around the country prize hunting. Like, that would be sweet. Having Don Sr. in as the president and Don Jr. as the mayor, that would be pretty sick
Well,
of the city.
it would certainly shake things up, and it would certainly make Andrew Cuomo have to work for this thing.
Absolutely. At least make him
Don't
work. At least
don't
make him
just hand it
sweat.
to him. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So back to Cali. So do you think the Newsom recall is going to be successful this time? Because the last time it was at least successful at getting the ballot, like getting them on the ballot again and making them have to run one more time,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. We're still waiting word from and when I say we, I mean California is still waiting word from
You're
the
still a
Secretary of
Californian.
State.
It's like me. I'm a
Ye-
Jersey boy always. I will always
it-
be a Jersey boy. That's where I was born and raised.
yeah,
Things going on there hurt me. I see ads for like everyone running for New York, for New Jersey governor from the Democrats, and I'm looking at, I'm like, all ads are against Trump. Every single one. It has nothing to do with New Jersey. It's like, you guys are running
interesting.
for
Yeah,
jack shit. Like, you're not running
yeah.
for anything. You're just running against Trump. That's all the Democrats have.
Well, that's not to go off on a tangent, but that's the entire Democratic platform right now
Yeah.
is no platform. It's just pivot against Trump. What's Trump doing? Okay, well, we're 180 degrees from that. And it makes them look like absolute insane people because they end up sitting with their asses glued to a chair during a joint presidential speech, and they're giving an honorary Secret Service award to a 12-year-old who's dying of brain cancer, and they're holding up signs that says you're a dick.
I
It's
think the
like,
only one who clapped or was any sort of decent was Fetterman. I think Fetterman didn't give a shit. And
yeah,
and it's crazy is I thought Fetterman was going to be one of the worst because the guy was a legit commie when he was a freaking mayor. And he was like, he was a freaking left of Bernie Sanders. And now he comes
yeah.
in and his brain's resetting and he's becoming a conservative. He's
He,
going to be an independent soon. I think he's
it,
going to switch to
I,
independent at minimum.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, it's wild the change. I've had the same exact feelings change with him, where I'm like, this guy is like Uncle Fester's embarrassing cousin. And all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? This Fetterman guy's got some really good points. And I'm like, who just said that?
His voting record sucks, but he sounds good. Like,
Yes, yeah,
but listen, but I give
exactly.
him credit for having the balls to say things that the Democrat Party won't say. Right?
Yeah,
He
sure.
gets at least some points at being able to do that in public.
Yeah.
So, now, are you still plugged into kind of California politics? You still pay attention to it a lot?
Way too much. Oh yeah.
Way too good. So
And it's I've
way
got
too
family
much.
there, so I care. And at least as of right now, Idaho, they're doing okay. So so I'm
Idaho
like,
allows
you
Glenn
guys are
Beck
good.
to have a
You guys are
ranch
good.
there. They're fine. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. You have to be invited. We have to get you invited to Glenn's ranch. I
No
think we got
kidding.
to make that happen. I have no power to make that happen, but we got to figure it out.
Just got to put it out there.
So, who would you want the Republicans to put up in California right now? Because obviously Newsom's coming up against his term, right? So regardless of what
Yeah.
happens with the recall, he's going to be termed out anyway. So there's now going to be a battle. It looks like Kamala's going to run for governor. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Kamala run, and more than likely she's going to waltz right in, right? Because people in California, the city parts of California are not the brightest. Everyone else, it's like New York. The cities control it up, but the rest of the state's pretty damn red. But
Yeah.
who would you like to see the Republicans put up?
Boy, there's a couple good candidates. There's the sheriff in Riverside. Oh man, how can I not? Sheriff
I know who.
Bianco.
There you go. Sheriff Bianco's a good one. Yes.
Chad Bianco's great. I've heard a lot of just small independent people, who they're just going out there and doing it. They're like, "Hey, man, this sucks. I hate the way it is. I'm gonna run for governor." And I'm like, "That's awesome. Let me know what I can do."
Do you think the big names won't do it because it's Kamala floating around and it's kind of like not worth going to take the L that you're probably going to take? Which I think it'd be crazy for people to think that because Kamala is beatable, right?
I,
But it's like,
I
do you think that the big names are kind of, holding back because they don't want to, they want to run an election they think they can win?
not no. I mean, no one. I think it's a politics is a lot like boxing. I don't think you go into a ring thinking you're going to lose.
Hmm.
And that being said, Katie Porter, who's just slightly less insane a leftist Democrat as Kamala is, she threw it out there. She's running, and maybe she's just hoping that Harris doesn't run, or
Yeah.
she's just trying to gain some traction ahead of time. But she's at least put it out there. Rick Caruso would be fantastic. He would have been a great mayor.
Yep.
Los Angeles, I firmly believe 95% of the Palisades and Altadena would still be whole, and people would be living in those homes today if Rick Caruso was the mayor of Los Angeles.
Well, you wouldn't have poor people starting fires, and I'm putting that out there. You would not have that happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, well,
And
start with you're exactly right. So I was going to go on a preparation. I was just going to go as Rick Caruso saw the warnings coming, and he
yeah,
said, "Okay, I've got a ton of property where all of these warnings are. I'm going to get a bunch of water trucks, and I'm going to hire a bunch of firefighters, and I'm going to protect my space." I wonder what that guy would have done if his entire space wasn't just a mall in the Palisades and it
hmm,
was all of Los Angeles. I'm guessing he would have heeded those warnings. To your point,
yes.
you're 2 years now worth of cleaning up homeless encampments and really doing something about this epidemic that surrounds the city and the county and the whole entire state. All of this would have been worked on for years. And so that's a pretty good guy I would like to see in the governor's office.
That's the person
He,
I think I would like the most. I think he would be
yeah,
someone that, his ideas would resonate with the whole state. And I think he already has having a good chunk of LA supporting you is already massive in terms of getting that started, right? Because
yeah,
he already
yeah.
have a chunk supporting him. People already see that Karen Bass sucks. So it's like you're probably gonna have some people turn on her in a major, statewide gubernatorial election. and he would resonate with the sane parts of like Northern California and things like
Yeah.
that. And so to me, out of everyone, thinking, I think he'd be awesome. He'd be a really good candidate.
I don't disagree. There's been a lot of names around. I think it's going to be one of those primaries, kind of similar to the recall when, how was it? Was it Gray Davis when Arnold Schwarzenegger was elected? But there was like 140 different candidates and like porn stars, and everyone on the planet was on the ballot way back in the day. So who knows what it's going to be? Hopefully, it's not Kamala. Just to touch back on the not recalling Gavin Newsom, I would love to take all that energy and all that spirit of people who want to recall him, go get people registered.
Yeah.
Go get people registered to vote. Get Scott Pressler on the phone and say, dude, what did you do in Pennsylvania? Because we want to recreate that in California.
I'll tell you,
And
we need to get you. I need to get you in touch with Cliff Maloney, because Cliff Maloney did PA Chase, and that was a big part. Scott gets a lot of the credit, and Scott deserves a shit ton of credit. Early vote action's amazing, but PA Chase was also a big part of that. His goal with Pennsylvania Chase was to knock on 500,000 doors, and they made that happen.
Wow.
In Pennsylvania, so they were a massive part of the shift. Him and Scott together, they've given each other credit a ton, and those two together made something amazing happen. I feel like if we can get Cliff over there, maybe working out in California, he's doing a lot of things. He has things buzzing around, but I feel like that could be a good spot too, because like you said, the energy, like I want to see, like Republicans need to start picking battlegrounds, real ones.
Yeah.
Democrats do it all the time. And I feel like keeping Cuomo out of the mayor seat, the next one, right? Making sure that there is and at least battling, make the Democrats spend real money, make the Democrats really campaign. And again, Kamala, that should be easy picking. Get a good candidate there. She already lost in embarrassing fashion nationally. Don't let her have an easy win. Make her work, embarrass her some more. So maybe even if she does win, she is now going to face a war of criticism and merited. Weaken them before they even get in. If they do get in, I just don't like seeing them waltz in. I want to make them.
Agreed.
So I want to jump to some national stuff here. The Trump administration. I want to talk about the Signal chat leak.
Yeah.
What are your feelings? So for those that don't know, who is it? Jeff something, Jonah? I forget which one. The Atlantic guy. I don't read the Atlantic, so I don't give a shit about it. But the boss of the Atlantic, whoever he is, apparently was included in a Signal chat with basically the high-ranking officials in the cabinet that are in charge of foreign stuff, and was essentially leaked that America was going to start bombing the Houthis. And 2 hours later it happened. And to his credit, he waited a little bit to release that he did it. He didn't rat. He was a normal human for 5 minutes, which he normally isn't. So very little. It's a low bar for them when they're decent humans. But we saw the chat. I have my opinion on it. I want to find out what you think about the Signal chat and everything that went on.
So I think it's not great by any stretch. I mean, it was a gigantic screw up, and it was a mistake, still a screw up, and somebody needs to be held responsible for it. I think
apparently it was Mike Waltz was responsible for creating the group, and he basically said he clicked the wrong name.
Yeah, and I totally get it. And there are these situations where it sucks, and it couldn't have been more of a innocent mistake. Nonetheless, here we are now, and I think it's so tremendously magnified because no one has had anything to really go after the Trump administration for that had real meat on it. I mean, you can say all day long, they're Nazis, they're fascists, they're taking away rights, blah, blah, blah. but there's nothing where I can say, stop, demonstrate the fascism, put it on a plate and show it to me.
And tell me what fascism is. I want them to start giving definitions, because they can't do that.
There's that too. At least with this, they can show, we get screenshots now. This was a screw up. This is a screw up that we can show you. And whether it's a 4 on the screw up scale or it's a 10, it's going to be treated as a 10 because there have not been any 10s so far. So I don't want to use like sacrificial lamb or someone needs to pay for this. I think in the interest of being better than the other side, I don't want to just go, this is nothing. We were trying to trick you guys, or I would love a bit of ownership and responsibility, and no one needs to fall on a sword and be fired, I don't think, but there needs to be responsibility and just go, we're fucked up. And then I
Yeah.
think at that point, people will go, then you took all the meat away from it. You take the power away.
I think we've seen a bit of that. I have seen it being floated around that people are saying it was scripted, it was set up. It does look a little weird, some of the comments. I'm not going to lie. But I'm not going to fall on that because until they come out and tell us we were trying to do a PR stunt, I'm not going to believe that. That's number
Yeah.
one. We've seen a little bit of that. Mike Waltz has come out and apologized. They asked Trump about it. He said he's a good guy. He made a mistake. We're moving on. So I do think they're handling it the right way. I think even
Sure.
Caroline Levitt came out and said it was a thing. The right parties I've talked to, I think they acknowledge it was a mistake, which
Yeah.
I think everyone's kind of like, wait a minute, politicians and an administration said the word mistake
Yeah.
to them.
Yep.
Like, so it's weird. We haven't seen that. But number two, as I read through it, there's nothing wrong. Like, it's not like they said anything that, okay, they talked about bombing a few hours away. Okay, whatever. But at the same time, you have JD Vance kind of pushing back against it, right? Which I thought was pretty cool to see him in real time standing by what he normally says, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Pete Hegseth, who people think he's out of his mind. It's like, no, he wasn't being a dick. He's like, I get it, but we got to do what we got to do type of deal. And to me, it was kind of based in some ways. You're like, all right, well, fuck the Houthis. Like, they want to mess with us. Like, we got to do what we got to do. And
Well,
so I think that's the big thing with me is that there was nothing of true import or true, unless whatever his face has more that he hasn't shown. Okay, if he has more and there's classified stuff in there, which the Trump administration came out and said there was nothing classified said in that signal
yeah.
chat. So it was all above board. So if that's the case, yeah, acknowledge it's a screw up. Maybe stop using Signal. And if you're not on Washington, get whoever is in the war room and use this. Get on a video call so you could see everybody, right? Like, but there is none of that. Like, do something like that. Maybe stop using Signal and relying on putting people into a chat. I don't know.
Yep.
So that's how I feel. I don't think it's a massive deal. I agree with you, and I'm happy that I saw them take some. Hegseth said there's no classified stuff, so I don't care, basically, which I don't mind that. That's Hegseth's way he is. But for the most part, everyone else, even Trump, was like, Mike Waltz is a good guy. He made a mistake. We're going to move on from it. He's learned. He'll never do it again. And that's it.
Quite a Trump.
Yeah, thank you. It's been terrible. I've been working on it. But, that was fine. So let's talk about anything else with the Trump administration. What have you liked? What have you disliked?
There's not a lot to dislike at this point. Egg prices are down. The border is secure. Dangerous people are flying out of the country. If there's anything, one of the few things my wife is well attuned to is the interest rate. She'd like to see that go down. I'm like, fair enough. I'll
How
see what
high
I
is
can
it
do
right
about
now?
that. We bought a house a year ago, and I'm trying to remember, it was like 6.92 something, and so, I'd like to refi a little bit if we could, but I'm
Actually,
just
not
like,
terrible. 6'9"
in due
isn't
time.
terrible. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
But everything's, I'm not going to say everything is great. I think there was a lot of promises made during the election, and a lot of those promises have been kept so far, and that's solid. I think
Yeah.
if there was any other kind of misstep along the way, it was the Epstein files.
Still a
Where they
miss.
were like, yeah, where they're
Still
like,
very
we're going to
critical of them on
release
that.
those.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't, and I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you give any fodder to anyone, that this is kind of how you're handling things? So that was, if I was going to find something that was like disappointing, and it was a self-inflicted wound. I'm
Yeah.
like, why did you do that? You brought that up. You were like, I have a girlfriend. She's in Canada. You know, you're like, sure, bro. You're like, I'm bringing her over tomorrow. I was like, why would you say that? We weren't going to question you on her in Canada, but now you're presenting her. Why are you doing this?
True. Yeah, I like that.
So that was weird.
Yeah.
But bring the prices down on stuff. Make crime a priority. I would love to see homelessness become a priority
Yeah.
nationwide. It's such a problem. Me coming from California, it's still I'm not fully desensitized to that, and
Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
see it creeping in here around Boise, especially. And there's a knucklehead super liberal mayor who's like, hey, I
There's
know
a
we got some
trend.
homeless people around here, but we're going to do what Denver and Los Angeles is doing and lead with compassion. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, we have like 600 people on the streets in the entire
Ah,
capital of this state. That if we keep this up, it's going to be 10,000 in 2 years.
and it happens quick.
So
Yeah.
and it'll be 2 years and everyone's going to be going, oh my God, where'd all these tents come from? And there's nothing worse there's nothing more I hate than being right. I don't want to be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you what's going to happen.
So
So
I
I
think we know
certainly
what
hope.
office you need to run for.
Yeah, I
Mayor
know.
of Boise, baby.
That's what they want, is some loudmouth Californian telling them how to clean up their streets. But it's going to
If
eventually
you're
get
right,
to
you're right. But
that.
quickly, I
Yeah.
want to get to Nate G right here, coming in, apologizing for saying Oilers stars got lost in the hockey. I understand. Saying his stars have some demons to exercise. Also saying that the Fed fund is 4.5%, which makes sense because your rate for houses is always like about 2% higher than what the Fed is. So that makes sense. My biggest gripes so far, I guess, the Epstein files are a big blunder. And I have a theory that they released the JFK files in full, knowing that there wasn't that much in there and making people so desensitized that they maybe are going to be like, well, maybe the Epstein files aren't that bad either, so we shouldn't care. I think they really just want people to use the JFK files and then not give a shit about Epstein. I'm
Agree.
not that
Yeah.
person. I think all pedophiles should go through wood chippers. So tell me who these powerful pedophiles are and these women who are still living. It's not like the JFK where everyone's dead. These people are still living. These women are still going through this mentally and stuff. So yeah, let's get some justice for them.
Yeah.
That was a big gripe of mine. Um, what else? Oh, Trump, I think just today, wholeheartedly endorsed Lindsey Graham. How do you feel
Yeah,
about
I
that?
did
Because
just
that
see
to me
that.
is a big mistake. Lindsey
Yeah,
Graham is a snake and he's a terrible senator.
well, I just don't. My only thought when you were talking about Don Jr. running against Cuomo was, I'm like, enough with the legacies, enough with these guys who have been in office for 60 years. How can you do this? You're telling me you cannot find anyone, and it's like, why isn't anyone pulling Trump aside and going, hey, instead of having someone in office who may die 4 days in, why don't you endorse somebody who can be there for the next few decades? And
And in
and
South
and
Carolina.
yes, and look, I'm not saying I want. I'm like, I don't want any more legacy people in there, but I'm just saying, look, at least be smart about it. Why are you putting some octogenarian who freezes
Oh,
up? Who's like, he's full of TIAs or strokes or I don't know what is going on with his fugue states he just pops into, but anyone. I mean,
so I
is
follow a
is it for a
gentleman.
70-year-old?
I follow a gentleman who follows me. He is been campaigning against Lindsey Graham. He's actually running against Lindsey Graham to try and primary him. His name, and he's never been on the show. I want him to come on the show, but he's Thomas D. Murphy. He is running specifically against Lindsey Graham. He lived in California, apparently. He's a CA survivor. I'm looking at his X page right now. He's a retired Navy combat corpsman. The guy, awesome. Like, Trump, where are you? This is the Dr.
Yeah.
Oz shit all over again. Okay. This is the Dr. Oz endorsing, and maybe it's good because we got Fetterman, right? But Kathy Barnett would have kicked the shit out of Fetterman, and Kathy Barnett is fantastic. So this is kind of where Trump's blind spots are, where
Hmm.
he endorses these people who just kind of butter him up, right? And that's what he's doing with Lindsey Graham. So that does bother me. And you were talking about what you want to see. What I want to see him do use these tariffs against clothing companies, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, get the sweatshops out. Because
Yeah.
again, I really don't give a shit about what goes on most of the world. But when it comes to kids being forced labor and now I'm buying it and wearing their stuff, okay, no. Put tariffs on the places like Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, like those companies, make them come back here. And major
Yeah.
cell phone people, your iPhone, your Galaxy, get them out from across where there is no working standards, force them to start building here. And it's working, right? We see it with cars and stuff. Do it to Nike, do it to Under Armour, do it to all them. Because the sad thing is, you and I both know there's 4, 5, 6-year-olds. Our kids, if they were over in those countries, have a good chance of working in those sweatshops, making clothes for
Without
Americans in
question.
West.
Yeah.
I would love to see him sit there and go, we know that kids are being abused around the world. That's going to end on my watch. But and that's something I would love to see him do.
And then you get the Democrats who are all of a sudden on the side of sweatshops, and
You're
and
gonna be
how
really mad when that Nike shirt's $40 instead of $25, and it's like, bitch, I'll
yeah,
pay $40 as long as some kid isn't working in a sweatshop.
all
Like,
day long. They do that. I mean, it's not to. It's like with lettuce. Do you want to pay $7 for a head of lettuce? I'm like, well, I guess if somebody was out there and they were making a decent wage, and everyone had health insurance, and I guess that's just part of the deal, because why isn't that job like every other job? It's
and why are we
uh,
letting these businesses off the hook that hire all these people, right? It's like,
yes,
all right,
yeah,
let's find that business into oblivion until they're gone so we can get businesses that want to run the thing correctly, right? Because
yeah,
it's just letting these business people, like the Democrats who hate wealthy business people who abuse people, are now supporting the wealthy business people who abuse people the most. It's like,
yeah,
it's so easy to catch them in contradictions. You
yep.
don't have to try very hard. Um, but that's I think that's great too. Getting into that and doing that type of stuff. I don't know. There's a lot that can be done, Kevin. Nate G coming here saying Pam Bondi, Mike Waltz, big disappointment. Bondi, certainly. She's doing good things. The Epstein file, I think, is really just going to follow her. The
For
fact that
sure.
that was her baby. And, anything she does right now, she has to do a lot of good to get on the good graces, because she pissed me off, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you're talking about, we have these, it's on my desk. And listen, I'm not laying Cash Patel off the hook either, because I'm sorry. You're the dude that wrote Government Gangsters. Okay? You have in this book all the names, you named people in the government that are awful. What are you doing, Cash? You're now the leader of the police force of the country. If
Yep.
those dudes, government gangsters, are still walking around and you knew they did a ton of shit, why? I'm
Very
sorry.
true.
I'm calling a spade here. So there's that. So, how do you think Trump has handled the foreign side of things? How do you think he's handled the Israeli-Gaza war, the Ukrainian-Russian war, and things like that?
Well, most of it seems to be ceasefiring or petering out or coming to an end.
Mhm.
And whether that's because they just know he's in the Oval Office or stuff he's been saying, I think he's been getting it taken care of.
Yeah.
It's just it's a strong voice. It's a strong person, who people, whether they want to like him or not, they know he's going to do what he says. And if he says, if there's not going to be a ceasefire, I'm going to wipe you all off the face of the earth, count that he's going to come with the Hellfire missiles, and he's just going to, leave just a wristwatch of you. And people get that, they can call, he's Putin's puppet and blah blah blah. I think he and Putin may be cordial with one another, but they both understand the game, and
And he hasn't been. He's been going at Russia ever since he kicked Zelensky out. He's been going at
yeah,
Russia pretty damn hard.
yeah. It's no one's getting a free pass or
No.
anything like that at all. Trump is strong. No one wants to admit it, but he's getting it done.
So I get my last question on the Trump admin real quick. Which would you rather prefer to become the 51st state? Do you want Canada, Greenland, or Panama, if you could choose.
I'm just going to go strategically and go Panama, because I think the canal is just a gigantic resource that we would take advantage of managing. Canada, whatever, they're just going to be there doing their Canadian thing anyway. So I don't know if that helps us at all. But yeah, I'd go Panama, I think.
And apparently, like Greenland and Canada are filled. Well, we know Canada's filled with leftists, but apparently Greenland's pretty leftist too. So I don't want to add more leftists. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
Panama would appreciate it.
All right. So last thing I'm gonna ask you, and then I'm gonna let you get out of here because it's getting dark behind you too. So now I'm
I
happy. You're in
know.
darkness as well. We were both in darkness. Complete non sequitur. Have you seen any good TV shows or movies lately, and what would you recommend?
Have I seen anything good recently? I'm trying to think. Boy, I think it helped from low expectations. I watched The Electric State with
Okay.
Chris
Chris
Pratt.
Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, I thought it was. I don't think she's a great actress, but
No.
I thought it was an interesting concept. I thought it was a good movie. Chris Pratt always makes me laugh. Watched what's it, The Old Man on Hulu, which I thought was a decent series.
Okay.
Jeff Bridges, one of them, but like old dudes, kind of spy thriller. It was pretty good, and then still catching up on Reacher, which is always just kind of fun and
It's a fun
ass
romp.
kicking and people getting punched. Yeah, so
It's kind of, that was kind of a good non sequitur though, because I actually forgot to give, I always shout out the week before show, but I got excited to have you on and I didn't. And it kind of falls in because my last week's show, we had on Blaine Andrews. He is the creator, owner, and CEO of Criticless. I don't know if you've heard of Criticless.
mm,
I download it. It's awesome. It's a great app. It's all, if you're a member of it, you sign up, it's free. You could then start leaving your own ratings on movies, TV shows, things like that. And it's the
ah,
answer to Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb because they freaking suck. But you can
interesting.
go, you can be part of a community. You get comments, you can like other people's like reviews, comment on their reviews, and it hasn't been any bullshit lately. If someone disagrees, they usually disagree respectfully. But it's a really dope spot, and we talked about that because Blaine kicked the hornet's nest because a lot of people in the conservative space were not fans of Electric State. They thought it was
Hmm.
like, because there are a bunch of nerds too. It was like the nerd conservative space
Of
that's on
course.
YouTube, and they're a bunch of gatekeepers, which I am too, because I'm a giant nerd. I gatekeep the hell out of the things I like as well. But they were talking about the bad parts about Electric State and how like it could have been better, and they didn't follow parts of the graphic novel, which I attest
Mm,
nobody knows about because they really don't. And Blaine was completely against it and was like, they're just saying things to say things, and he thought it was good too. He thought it
yeah,
was fine. He didn't think it was amazing, but he thought it was okay. He thought it was a good popcorn flick.
well, yes. It's like, what were you expecting when you went into this? It was perfectly serviceable, and like I mean, Chris Pratt, he's good at what he does. So.
Chris Pratt's bizarre right now though, because I saw on Facebook my Boomer book. I'm
Hmm.
scrolling through it, and Hallow or whatever it is has him and Mark Wahlberg talking about Bible verses. And
Huh.
I didn't like, I knew it was obvious Chris Pratt was a conservative, but he was your
Yeah. Oh
typical,
yeah.
I don't want to tell people very much I'm a conservative in Hollywood. But
Yeah.
now
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
it's safe to be a conservative, right? So he's out there and he's doing Bible verses, which is dope. But at the same time, it's like, bro, be a conservative 24/7. Like,
Yeah.
don't hide.
It's funny. Yeah, he leaned into it, and I think he got a lot of backlash for it, and I think pulled back quite a bit. But like you said, I think it's safer to do that now. So hopefully, there'll just be a little bit more of that. In general, people
Yeah.
feeling a bit more safe. Because I mean, even Hollywood as a whole, there's no possible way that 99.2% of Hollywood are just crazy staunch leftist
No.
liberals.
Well, the
You
Friends of
know,
Abe
you
exist, right? The Friends of Abe are a thing, and we've had
yeah.
on one of the members of the Friends of Abe, Matt Kadish.
Hmm,
He's a Salty Nerd podcast, and he was in the Friends of Abe when he lived in LA, when he was in Hollywood doing things, and it's like,
interesting.
but they just need to be more open, right? Like now, like
Yeah.
this is the time to do it. Stop, like no more secret meetings.
Well, I
Be
think
the
it's
Friends of Abe
it's
openly.
it's safer now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
as one person steps out, more people will and go, okay, here I am. So, hopefully we get more people in Hollywood coming out.
Yeah, Adam Sandler's another one. He's a conservative. He just doesn't come out and say it, right? Like
Well,
Adam
a lot
Sandler's
of people,
obviously, even if he's not full on, he leans more right. You can tell.
yeah, yeah. It's Adam Carolla says a lot. He's like, those Hollywood celebrities that you don't hear talking about politics. They're all conservatives.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
like,
Well,
that
you
makes
see
sense.
what
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn, I think, said one thing, maybe agreeing with like George W. Bush,
Oh
and like
yeah.
he's been blacklisted for like over a decade.
Yeah,
He
for
was
sure.
like the guy in comedy. So, but we'll see what goes on. But Kevin, I really appreciate you jumping on the show, man. This was fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for having me on. And
Absolutely.
and I really appreciate it. Always love the conversation.
So once again, he is Kevin Dalton. He is a former candidate over in California for District 1 Board of Supervisors, which we now find out is like the mayor of a county, which we have county executives here in New York. And I'm thinking the next time we talk, you're going to be candidate for something in Idaho. Because I think just hearing you talk, that itch is still there. So I think within the near future, I'm going to have you back on and you're going to be like, yeah, I'm running for something. This is what I'm running for.
I will keep you posted.
So once again, we are the Alex Cuesta Show. Well, David's not here. I'm the Alex Cuesta Show. And we'll be back next week. We'll have some fun. And we'll have a good time. Like I always say, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. We appreciate everyone that's watching wherever you're watching from. If you're listening to us via podcast form, give us 5 stars. That's the appropriate thing to do. If not, I'm sending Kevin down to you. And he has a particular set of skills. I don't know what they are, but he's going to use them. Anyway.
It's just going to eat everything in your refrigerator.
I mean, that's pretty damning, right? Because now you're good. Now you're leaving them hungry. That's pretty good. But all right, everyone. Thank you so